Welcome back, everybody, to the MidLyfe Gaming Podcast. This is Archie, and my good friend on the other side of the screen is Steve. What's going on, Steve?
Howdy, boss. How's it going?
It's going well. I'm not sure if you can tell from the visuals or not, but I am significantly more red than normal. Went to the beach and just decided to not put any sunscreen on. That's on me. But how was your last week? How was it going?
Sorry about that. This I could tell from my camera I was off screen. Last week was pretty good, man. Just doing the gaming thing, doing the modding thing. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the episode, but really, same old stuff, just a different day.
Yeah, I'm real excited about the modding stuff that you're getting into. But we will get into that. But first, let's get into the news, Steve.
Let's get on to the news. Um, it might not even really be news, depending on how you feel about it. But did I'm gonna be 100% honest. I didn't watch BlizzCon. I've seen a couple articles just by like the thumbnail and the headline, but nothing that really grabbed my attention, except for this one where it was like, yeah, they probably could have skipped it, and just without even knowing anything about it, it seems like it could be a year that they should just skip it. There was no news that could bring in a casual fan like myself. So curious, did you watch the show and what did you think?
I did not watch the show, but it's because normally, um, BlizzCon is this paid event that you physically go to, or you can get like an e-ticket that you pay for. So a lot of times their official videos and everything aren't available to the public until the following days after the event, which I think it was what Friday and Saturday were the main days for the this year's BlizzCon, if that's what you want to call it. But no, I didn't really watch anything. I had been aware that it was coming out for the last couple of months because I love Diablo, so I always look forward to that type of content coming out, and just completely whizzed right on through my brain cells. It went and happened, and I had no clue that it had even occurred. I did look up today though that there were a couple of announcements related to. Um, there's a new class announced for Diablo 4, uh, Diablo Immortals, the terrible, terrible, terrible mobile game. Was kind of showed off more, but really there was nothing super new. Everything that they announced was either leaked already or things that they had already announced in the past, just on social media or something.
Gotcha. Yeah, honestly, I think to Blizzard, and obviously it's Activision Blizzard these days. I think to Blizzard, and there's really just not anything that excites me anymore. It would really take for them to go out and do something different, like bring back StarCraft Ghost or explore another kind of facet of one of their IPs. But to just for them to roll out Diablo every year, roll out World of Warcraft every year, roll out something about Overwatch, like it just is it's tiresome at this point. I can't get excited about it. It's got to be something completely new. Got to
Yeah,
be something completely new for me to really get excited about it. Um, Overwatch, I even Overwatch 2, like that's not gonna do it for me. I'm more, and I mean, obviously this is BlizzCon, so they don't talk about the Activision side of the house,
right.
at this event, but I'm more interested in what Activision is doing. Obviously we're gonna get the Call of Duty every year, but sometimes we get the what's that one game about the gods? I can't remember it off the top of my head. It's like Deathstalkers or something like that.
Oh, okay,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I'm more excited about that kind of stuff. But yeah, it was a complete, from what I've heard, which is nothing. It must have been a complete dud.
Yeah. It they I don't know if it's just because now we're starting to see the long-term effects of what everyone being locked in at home is doing or not. Because at least in early, quarantine days, everyone still knew what they were doing. They had already done all the planning meetings. It was really just like everybody was out to do their job. But when it comes time to build the framework around a new project, I mean that's a little bit harder to do over Zoom.
Yeah,
Uh, so I don't know. Maybe we're just feeling those effects finally, and hopefully, as we're going to talk about this later too. Next, actually, is the Nintendo's Direct, and it was kind of almost the same vibe from that as it was from BlizzCon. Just like, yeah, it happened, and everyone knew because it was Nintendo, but it didn't really hit home for really anybody.
Yeah, yeah. We can dive right into Nintendo Direct because I really have nothing left to say about BlizzCon.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, better luck next year.
Yeah.
Come up with a new IP. Bring back I wanted to say Star Fox. Bring back StarCraft Ghost, please.
StarCraft
It,
Ghost. Yeah, that was a fun one.
yeah, do it. That's their way to get people excited again.
Do kind of branch out of the normal. But yeah, so speaking of branch out of the normal, what my Nintendo did not do was breach out of the normal. They had their first Nintendo Direct in some hundreds of days, like true like Nintendo Direct, which is like their
Yeah.
mini little E3 situations, a little press conference for the world. And they didn't really do a whole lot. They did announce Splatoon 3, which I don't know if you've ever played the Splatoon titles, but they're pretty fun. My only problem that I had with them was the network functionality of
Have to
the
use your phone.
yeah, you have to use your phone to do voice chat and whatnot, and it just wasn't very intuitive from that aspect. So Splatoon 2, I think, was a launch title for the Switch, I think, or if not, then it came out pretty shortly after the Switch came out. Um, and I'm not too sure that Splatoon 3 is going to change much. Like it does seem that they have more of a narrative happening there, but I don't. It's probably going to be a pass from me.
Yeah.
Um,
So sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about Splatoon 3 because I think Nintendo's going to continue to do that thing with making it impossible for pedos to get in touch with kids easily from the
That's
online
true.
service. I think that's what the big issue is there. But they've gotten around it. Obviously, we were huge fans of Animal Crossing, and there's a lot of ways to communicate in that game without, actually using your voice. Quick emojis, things like that.
Right.
Um, but it's one of those things where it's like you said, they're just kind of spitting out the same thing, like, oh, a Splatoon sequel, how original. Like you kind of
Right.
expect it. It's going to come down to what gameplay elements they have in it to really define if it's something worth being excited about or not.
Right.
It's more of the
And
same
even
as like,
Splatoon
yeah,
3 had leaked. I think news of it had leaked about 2 or 3 months ago.
yeah,
So I mean, it was not a surprise.
yeah,
Um, Something that I did like from the Nintendo Direct though is they are bringing the Tales from the Borderlands series to the Switch, and that is a very fun uh kind of direct. I don't know what you would call that type of game.
yeah.
It's very
Um,
narrative driven, but it's very decision driven as well.
yeah.
The
I
Tales
mean,
games.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of those. I don't know what you call me. They're not quite walking simulators,
Right.
because you do have the decision elements and there are some, action elements in there here and there. But I love that series. But I couldn't get into Tales from the Borderlands. So maybe I think obviously you and Ryan, you guys played a lot of Borderlands 3. I was pretty much done with the series after two. I didn't play the prequel that they came out with. I tried the VR thing, didn't really care for it. Tried Tales, didn't really care for it. So I think it's one of those things where you really have to be a
A
diehard
fan
fan
of
of the
that
series.
world. Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm not. They were fun games back on like the 360 era, but I feel like this current gen they've kind of been like, everything they've done, other people have done better. To me, in my opinion. No
Yeah.
offense, Randy Pitchford, if you're listening.
If he's
He's not.
listening, hit me up. I'll be more than happy
Yeah.
to play test some stuff for you. But yeah, Ryan and I we played a ton of Borderlands 2 back in the day, and I think I checked my save file back on the 360 not that long ago for Borderlands 2, and it was clocked at like 500 hours or
Oof.
something along those lines. A lot of hours were put into that game. Uh, so it's definitely a title that or not title, but a like universe that I enjoy and hold close to me. But there was another title too, a couple of other titles that I kind of liked from it. Legends of Mana is a really old. I think it's a Super Nintendo era game that they're remaking. Um, Visually, the narrative's going to be the same and everything like that. Just visually, it's going to be brought back up to snuff, but it's still going to have that old style look about it. Not pixelated, but still that weird fixed camera angle, I guess is what you would call it. So that one is definitely one I'm gonna like to probably get my hands on. And then one of the things that I found interesting is that they showed that they are actively supporting uh, Animal Crossing. You okay over there?
Sorry, this Tom the Greek in chat was like they wait they made you wait through half the show to tell you don't waste your time. No Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. They
Yes.
actually funny enough though, they tweeted ahead of time. They told people not to expect any Breath of the Wild 2 news.
Oh,
So
did they? I didn't see that. But yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
interesting.
yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw something about that. Like they said something like they were trying to, because I remember there being a like a jokey tweet going around where someone was like they Nintendo fans are so dumb that Nintendo literally has to tell them that there isn't anything coming because if not they'll try to add up all these little conspiracy type little things, you know. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, sorry, I know you got other stuff you want to talk about. What I'm surprised is why they aren't talking about hey, we have new hardware to show you at some point coming soon. Like that would be pretty hype for them. I know usually it's about software, but that would be one of the things that could easily make this a hype thing without you don't have to show the model, you don't have to say what it's going to do. Just hey, and we're excited to talk about new hardware coming holiday 2021 or holiday
I
2022.
think that the reason why that didn't come up is because there is no new hardware. The new hardware is not going to be probably even. I mean, I'm sure it's in the planning stages right now, but it is not anywhere close to being something physical that they can start, swapping hardware out of it. Go, hey, maybe it needs this kind of hard drive, maybe it needs this kind of screen. They're not even at that stage, probably. They're still on the pen and paper, like, what do we want it to do? Like, it's just a list of stats right now. There's not really going to be because remember, I think we talked about this in the first one. The Switch, the very first versions of the Switch all have a uh, uh, a hardware disability in them where it can be exploited to hack and play backed up titles that people may or may not own, and that's definitely not good for
Yep.
business for Nintendo. So they are, I believe, the Tegra chip is still in like the current Switches that are being sold out there, but it's definitely a heavily modified version of it. That plus there's the silicone shortage right now. Uh, I mean, car companies are struggling to get chips for cars, and there's not a whole lot of chips in those vehicles. So if they're struggling right now, I can guarantee you we're not going to see hardware for maybe we're not even going to hear of hardware from Nintendo for another year. I'd be I would be really shocked if we heard anything about a Switch Pro or a Switch 2 or a Switch U. It's just not something that I think is in their cards right now. Um, I
I
mean,
will
like, what do you think about that?
respectfully I'll take the under on this one. I disagree. I think that they do have something that they are ready to release just because at this point we've heard about it probably for 2 years straight. It's the only reason why. And
What, the Switch Pro?
yeah, and I don't even know if it would be a Switch Pro. I just think it would be another revision to make it a little more comfortable. The biggest reason why I would say is because of the Joy Cons, like the fact that those are so prone to having all these issues with them, with the Joy-Con drift. I think that will cause them to do some type of revision just so they can stop hearing about the Joy-Con drift. Like obviously you could do the Joy-Cons themselves. I have a couple different pairs of them that are aftermarket. I think that plus the battery life, they came out with a different SKU, so not a different model, but they did come out with a different SKU that replaced, some components which gave them more battery life. I think it went from like 7 to maybe 12, something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's all
so there's
theoretical. So it's like it went from 5 to 5.5 in
yeah, so
reality.
there's I think just like Sony and Xbox, they can come out with an incremental upgrade. So the Switch Lite is great in terms of like form, factor and everything like that, but I do think that there's still another stepping stone for them to make because even the it's not even 1080p in the handheld mode a lot of the times.
Yeah.
So they could do something simple like that and find a way to squeeze out a little more battery life. I mean, there's phones that are capable of playing the same games as the Switch at this point. So
Right.
there's something there.
But you're
And
also
plus,
talking
just
about like $1,000 cell phone compared to a $300 console.
yeah, of course.
So very
Um,
different hardware
One
inside.
other thing too, that I'll say there is they don't need to come out with it, and I think that's probably the biggest delay is that they don't really need to right now. Like they're still incredibly hard to get sometimes. Like I saw a ton of people online during Christmas, like parents asking me and stuff, like, "Hey, these are friends. I'm not popular enough to where strangers are asking me, but like people on Facebook, like, hey, they know I game and shit. Like, where can I get a Switch? So I give them, the sites that I go to for the restock alerts and all that kind of shit. But those are still even hard to get, and they're still selling out. So they don't have to do anything. They don't have to compete with Microsoft or Sony. But I think they could do it whenever they wanted to. By the time that the Switch itself has kind of died in popularity, that's probably when you'll hear a little bit more news about it. But then who knows what that'd be, you know. I think they'll never go back to traditional just plug it into your wall, plug it into your TV, and that's it. Like everything will be a switch at this point moving forward, right?
I mean, it's worked out so well for them.
Yeah. I wish Xbox and the other guys did. If they did, I'd probably play those more because I'd couch play a lot more.
Yeah, yeah. Couch play
Watch
has
the TV.
become more of a thing because we all work at our computers at home. So just to sit there for extra hours
Yeah,
just is not super fun. Uh,
yeah,
so Badfish in chat is asking if we saw the Diablo 2 remaster news. I did see that, and I'm more excited about that than probably anything else that was announced during BlizzCon.
yeah.
Um,
Nostalgia, man.
yeah, the nostalgia, and you brought this up last week. Nostalgia absolutely sells, and people
Yeah,
are more than willing to pay for it. And the game, it didn't look like a whole lot had been done to it, other than graphical updates. And I'm sure probably some bugs or something along those lines came out. But in the end, it's just Diablo 2. It just plays on your normal computer now. You don't have to, DOS box it or anything like that to get
yeah,
it to run properly. But back to the Nintendo Direct. It was so boring that we just completely sidetracked it for other things that were more interesting to talk about. But some of the hard passes that I have on this are they very briefly kind of announced and teased a game called Star Wars Hunters. Star Wars title seems great, but what caught my eye was at the end of it they had the Zanga logo on it, which if anyone out there doesn't know, Zanga is that company that was responsible for like mafia wars back in the early days of Facebook. That horrible, I don't know, everyone wanted to be on a mafia squad or something. It They are very much a pay to win company. They always have been from the very beginning. They were, I don't know, probably one of the first to bring casual gaming and pay to win together uh, to the masses, really. So that's probably going to be a hard pass. The new Smash character was definitely a cop out. The Pyra, I don't even know what the other person's name is. Pyra and um, Mithra. Apparently, it's going to be some type of old school Sheik character where back in the older titles of Super Smash Brothers, Zelda and Sheik were one character to select, and you would poof to one or the other. Um, she's not that way anymore, but this new character is going to be along that similar style. And then the other thing that's going to be a hard pass that they were kind of really trying to bring home and make you feel good about was Monster Hunter Rise. Uh, it's definitely an offshoot of the Monster Hunter series. It is not at all a title that I think I would ever enjoy. But I love the Monster Hunter World series title that came out. Oof, I don't even remember now. It's been a
three,
couple
4 years.
years. Yeah, three,
Yeah,
four
probably.
years. And it's not a mainline title. So again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, they do this every once in a while, where they announce like a little small title that does some type of goofy intro to it, or there's some unique ability or something inside that title, that game, and it just never makes it to the main series because it's not good enough for the main series. It doesn't play well on it. So one of the I would have much rather have preferred to have seen something like Monster Hunter World coming to the Switch, but that's a demanding game, and I don't know if the Switch
Yeah,
could handle that one.
probably too ambitious
Yeah.
for them.
So you said no hardware, but I mean, what do you think of what do you think of big releases happening in 2021 for Nintendo?
I think if they had anything big, that they would have announced it probably. Well, so you have to, I think, fiscally too, just kind of how companies operate. If it was between now and June, they would have announced it right now because the next big gaming event that we'll have is E3 now, or whatever they decide to do for E3 this year. I know, they'll probably do some type of virtual event.
Right.
Nintendo has the benefit they can do an event whenever they want, and it'd get as much press as like E3 anyway. But I still think if it was between now and like the summer, they probably would have at least given us a tease of it right now.
Right.
Um, so that puts you at the later half of the year, which that is the best time to really release a game, especially if you're Nintendo. That holiday season, you get everybody, plus you give your developers time to really put. And that's one thing Nintendo's always going to do. They're not going to rush anything to get it out to market, at a certain time.
Right.
They'll delay it. So that would be that could be a possibility. I mean, if we think about what we're waiting for Metroid, but Metroid they pretty much said last year that they had to restart completely. And then I can't really think of anything else that's been announced other than Breath of the Wild. So maybe that could be a reason why they didn't talk about it at this event, is to save that news for the next one, possibly. But
I could see that because it wouldn't be the first time that they've done that, where they're like, "Oh, hey, Tokyo Game Show or E3 is right around the corner. We're not going to
yeah,
talk about this until that point."
yeah,
So that would be interesting because Splatoon 3 is not supposed to be released until, what does it say over 2022. So it's not even a this year title.
yeah,
They do have some new titles like Monster Hunter Rise that we talked about, and Mario Golf. I think is supposed to be by holiday of this year as well. Um, Another title though, and Tom just brought it up. Tom the Greek in chat just brought it up. Is Zelda Skyward Sword. This is a title that no one was asking for. Not a
yeah.
single person was asking for this title. Um, it's not a good game. It has a lot of the see, and this is kind of the weird part. It has a lot of the elements that make a good Zelda title, and a lot of the features and aspects that we all enjoy about Breath of the Wild are found and were first used over here. But the game as a whole, as like a collective piece of its parts, does not play out well. It had janky motion controls. I mean, this was one of the I think this was the title that came out with the Wii Motion Plus, where that they had that little. I think I actually have one over in my drawer over here. Um, they had that little square that you had attached to the bottom of your Wiimote to make it more, one for one action,
Yeah.
and they just forced it down your throat in this game. Like you could not just play it like a normal Zelda title. What they did admit that uh, they will be having a button specific mode to help out with people that don't want to do that.
We'll see. So my when I heard this news that they were doing the port, I immediately kind of wasn't enthusiastic about it because they don't have a good track record of doing ports from the Wii. If you've played Super Mario All Stars, like there's literally commands on the menu that still reference things on the Wii remote and shit like that that isn't active. Like it's mapped correctly. Like you could, just because you've been playing the game, you know what the plus
Right.
correctly, but the notifications are still for the old title. So if they don't put that much care into their Mario compilation, I don't know. Maybe that was the thing because it was multiple games in one. Maybe that's why I kind of got shafted. Maybe with this just being one concentrated effort, maybe it'd be a little better. But they don't have a good track record yet for the port. So
Well, for the and you're talking about 3D All Stars, right?
yeah,
Yeah, Super Mario 3D All Stars. I have a theory about that. Is that we have not seen, and I don't think the GameCube has any games on the eShop for the Switch right now, and they year over year, console over console, ever since they've been using the eShop, they've been using it as a means to get older titles into the hands of current consoles. They have very garbage business practices when it comes to that, because if I buy the game for my 3DS, I should be able to just play it on my Switch without a problem, but that's just not how they are. I have to go and buy it again on my Switch. Um, but my theory for why that game even came out was not because, oh, it's the 35th anniversary of Mario. It was probably a a test to try and get a working Wii emulator running, because that's how the Nintendo Online, Super Nintendo Online, and the old NES Online work on the Switch, is you're playing an emulator that's networked in. So this was probably just their trial run for that, and they're like, hey, you know what, it's Mario's 35th year, let's see if we can get these two Wii titles working, and we'll see if it can have backwards compatibility within the emulator. Chuck an N64 title in there, because the Wii had native N64 support. It was still an emulator, but it was a nested emulator, so it was built into the actual firmware of the Wii. So to emulate the Wii means that you can normally properly emulate the consoles that it emulated. Um, that's just my theory on that game. I have no way of backing that up with any type of hard evidence or facts. It just kind of seems like they've been struggling to emulate Wii and Wii U titles. Like as you said, if they have still inside of the menus, commands responding to buttons that don't exist on your Switch controller, then that right there kind of leads me to think along that same path of like, hey, uh, this is just an ISO rip that's on this flash cart running a Wii emulator.
Hmm, interesting. Um, I agree with you, man. It's definitely, I mean, that's the one thing about Nintendo. Like, they kind of get a free pass on a lot of this stuff because people look at them as like, oh, they're the family friendly company, blah, 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 blah. But when you look at like their actual business practices, they're some of the most unfriendly to consumers that there is because, like you said, every single console you're buying, the same game that you bought 10 years ago, that you're pulling it through every single generation. Because they did the virtual console thing and they did it like Microsoft to where, hey, buy anywhere, play anywhere.
Right.
They know that they miss out on 5 times the purchase of that same game. They're the last to put anything on sale. Like
Oh
yeah,
Lord,
they're
I went to GameStop the other day, and all of the Switch titles are Breath of the Wild 1 is still like $54
yeah, of course,
used at GameStop. I'm like, that's
yeah,
insane.
yeah, dude. Yeah, so they just get a free pass on it, but that it's kind of if you remember back to the N64 days where on the box it always had the gold certification like Nintendo certified or something like that.
Mhm.
That's been the reason why they've kind of been able to do that. One thing you can usually say about Nintendo is they don't have bugged releases that often. Like
Right.
there's rarely something where you're like, oh man, this doesn't work. Like I can't think of anything. Like maybe you get a couple of janky glitches, but you don't really get anything that's like game breaking
Right.
in their titles. And so that's one thing you can give them.
What games would you have want to have seen on this Nintendo Direct? Out,
Star
we talked
Fox.
about Metroid already.
Yes, Star Fox.
Star Fox. What was the last Star Fox title? Was it technically that weird ship building one that they worked with Ubisoft with? Was that
Oh,
technically a Star Fox title?
actually really like that game.
Starlink, I think
Yeah,
is what it called.
yeah, I have it on PC, so I didn't get the Star Fox
Mm,
DLC. But in if you got it for the Switch, it actually it had obviously the I forgot what it's called.
the
It's
R Wing.
X Wing. Yeah, the R Wing, and it also had like a campaign string that was just specific to Star Fox.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the last main title. Oof, I can't think of anything that came out after this 3DS one, Star Fox Battle or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, but man,
I'd
I
love
I
I'd
love the
love a
Star
good
Fox
Star
games.
Fox.
Yeah, and the thing about them now is like if you look at No Man's Sky or something like that is perfect for the Star Fox world. Like it's not too demanding of a title.
Right.
the is procedurally generated, so they don't have to spend all this time handcrafting worlds and things like. Let him go off to different places in the Star Fox universe. Kind of like that. I think that would be a great game. Um, yeah, I think GameCube because it was Star Fox Adventure first, which was perfect,
That
great
was like the
game.
dinosaur one and Crystal, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're
Yeah.
actually I won't bring it up on spend too much time of it on this podcast, but news came out recently. That game actually so Star Fox Adventure got built on top of another rare game that they were coming out with that was supposed to be for N64. Then when it was right there on the cusp of the GameCube coming out, so they pulled it over to GameCube and they said, "Hey, let's take this game and make it a Star Fox game." Well, that original game is now leaked in its entirety, and you can play it
Oh.
online. Yeah, I think it's called Dinosaur Adventure or something like that.
Oh.
But yeah, Star Fox would have been nice to see. Obviously Metroid. I know you have put down Pokemon. I would love to see like a Pokemon Stadium follow up where it's just straight fighting, none of the RPG elements, none of that. I just want straight combat with friends,
Right.
and not the like. I like what they did with the Pokemon games, the recent ones, like
Mhm.
that where it kind of
The
feels like you're
open
a
world.
celebrity.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, like
that
I
that yeah.
yeah, like the gym battles are cool as hell. Like so, it made me very nostalgic for the Pokemon Stadium series. I would love to see that come back.
Yeah, I would like to see the Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Coliseum titles make a
Yeah,
return because Coliseum does have more of a narrative to it,
yeah,
especially the second one, GX for the GameCube. Those were very fun titles, and they kind of opened up the Pokemon world a little bit to more people because one of the things that you always joked about when you were a kid was like, oh yeah, I have the ability to steal Pokemon from other trainers, and that's not a real thing. Like unless you're using some type of cheat tool or Game Shark or something like that or Action Replay, that's not a real thing.
yeah,
Uh, but Coliseum introduced that very thing, but you were stealing it for a good reason because they were like, shadow Pokemon and they were evil. So you had to take them in and cleanse them, I guess.
yeah.
So that'd be fun. But I would absolutely love a new Coliseum with, some more mini games on it. Um, I don't know if they could do the same thing like they did on the Nintendo 64, where you just chug in your cart and play it through that as well. I don't think there'd be a real reason because it's all the same console now. Their handheld
Yeah,
is their table console.
yeah.
Um,
And they have that cloud service now. I don't know how well it works, but they do kind of have like what is it called, Pokemon Home or something like
I
that.
have that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have
so
that. I pay for it. It is great. Mainly because it allows you to keep. I'm a Pokemon player since day one. Like my very first game after Tetris for the Game Boy original, the Gray Brick, that I also still have, uh, was Pokemon Yellow. And then after that, I got Pokemon Red, which I still have that one. And I've just been playing every single generation. And a thing occurred around, I think it was like Gen 3 or something, where you lost your ability to move your Pokemon up with you.
yeah,
So they then eventually came out with something called Pokemon Bank. It wasn't great, and if you let your subscription lapse, you lost all your Pokemon. There was no
you're done
questions
goofed.
about it. Yeah, there was no questions about it. You lost. You didn't pay your bill. You lose your Pokemon permanently. There was no getting them back. That's what happened to me for that. So it was not a great situation. Not a great feeling. But I do have Pokemon Home, and I've been able to amass a much larger collection in there. And it's not just a way to collect your Pokemon, it is also a way to trade with others without having to boot up your Switch or your 3DS. You can just straight up go into it on your phone, on your cell phone. Say, "Hey, I'm looking for this guy. I'm willing to trade this guy for him." Post. And it's uh like a Craigslist for Pokemon.
Oh, really? That's cool.
It's definitely, for me at least, if you're an avid Pokemon player, it's definitely worth it because then you don't have to worry about like, oh man, my Pokemon Platinum cart is broken now because it's been sitting in a Ziploc bag for years, and the internal battery is dead, so I just lost everything anyways. Um, which kind of ties me back to your desire for a new Pokemon Stadium because in what was it? I think it was Pokemon Coliseum GX. Along with that for GameCube came a disc called Pokemon Box Ruby Sapphire, and you could load up through like the Game Boy Advance link cable to your GameCube. You could load up all your Pokemon in there and like kind of manage them in that thing locally. What made it not such a good idea though was because it was a very easily cheatable system. A lot of people already had out on eBay memory cards that you could just dump your save onto, edit it on your PC, and drop it back into your GameCube, and suddenly you have 800 level 100 Mewtwo's. It just was not great for the competition scene for Pokemon. But I would like a local storage option, something that I can plug my Switch title into and just say, hey, all my things, they're physically here on this save file. So I don't have to worry about, because it almost happened again. I almost lost my Pokemon Home because uh they didn't send me a notice when something went wrong, and I just so happened to have been looking and was like, "Oh, this was supposed to have gotten billed 2 days ago. I need to get on top of this now." Luckily, all my Pokemon were still there, so that was good. But that's enough about Pokemon. Let's
Yes.
see. Yeah. Let's talk about this Mortal Kombat movie, Steve.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. We're a gaming podcast, not a movie podcast. But the cool thing about it, I just thought because we talked about the Borderlands movie pretty much in depth last week, kind of just our assumptions and our impressions based off just the news that we were hearing. And I thought it was pretty cool because this Mortal Kombat trailer shows a very kind of like the antithesis to what those guys did.
Right.
Borderlands is coming out with, oh, we have this actor and we're doing this, and oh, the story's going to be so dark and gritty. Whereas Mortal Kombat just said, hey, you're not going to recognize any of these people. If you do, cool for you, but here's just a cool ass looking movie. So I'm really excited about this. I think the trailer looks incredible. There's like some moments in there where the number one thing I would say is nothing looks campy, nothing looks cringy. Like there is nothing that I saw in this where I was like, oh my god, here comes another
Yeah, here
like
here it is.
yeah, like, oh man, people are gonna be laughing at this. Like, there were legit moments in here, like this one that's showing a couple seconds ago with the where he cuts the guy and then he uses the his own blood, freezes it, and uses that as a weapon. Like, Jesus, just a lot of creativity. I think
Right.
here. So of course it's a trailer. They're gonna slice together the best parts, but I think from just what we see, it looks like they've got the tone right. Like, take it seriously, and people will take it seriously. So yeah, I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too. I was always a fan of the terrible original movies. Like they were definitely some films to watch if you're just like, hey, if you want to have a good time, just sit down in front of this movie, watch it. Don't think too hard about it.
Yeah.
But they were still fun. It was good action scenes, and I think just from what we can see in this commercial, the action scenes are going to be good. But it does kind of round out what we talked about last week. Was when was the last good video game movie? And yeah, I mean, besides Sonic, after or before that, I probably couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be good, man. I have no idea what the story's gonna be. I mean, when you think of Mortal Kombat, the first one came out the 1990 something, so that you've got 20, 30 years worth of stories that you could tell. They're probably gonna pull together a little bit of everything and tell something that's fun. So I'm excited for it. But yeah, that's all I got on Mortal Kombat. I know that you wanted to talk about Destiny, and seems like they're also looking for a way into some entertainment IPs themselves, right?
I think so, yeah. So Destiny announced not that long ago that their internal offices were expanding. They're moving to a new site, and they're opening up an internal, or not an internal, a international office out in, oh, I don't know, what did I put down here? Amsterdam. So they are definitely looking to expand their various IPs, and they even announced that they are working on a Destiny related IP, but it's not going to be a game. So they are definitely looking to branch out into other medium, which is not it's not anything new for Bungie. Whenever Halo 2 came out, they had released like an entire trilogy of books for the Halo world, which one ended up becoming a future game that they didn't even build, The Fall of Reach. So I don't know. It's anyone who says that Destiny 2 is dead clearly isn't paying attention because they're alive and well.
Yeah,
They're especially in the PC space. That's probably the best move they could have made was kind of, increasing their network capabilities for the PC players. Um,
absolutely.
it's something that whenever you get on there, you feel it. There's a lot of people. Chat is not very lively in that game, but they have uh, voice chat that you can activate. When you're out in social spaces and whatnot. So it's uh it's definitely going to be a good thing. One thing though that came from this announcement was that they announced a ton of new executive leadership, and they didn't really say what happened to the old executive leadership. So hopefully that's not a whole lot of nest shaking.
I
Uh,
guess.
yeah, one of them was a CTO. So it's kind of weird for them because that was one of the things that made Destiny good was their whole blended world, like the ability to have those impromptu social spaces out in a you know place that other people are doing quests. At the time for Destiny 1 was not really a thing. So they spent a ton of years on that network architecture, and now they're like, "Hey, we have a new chief technology officer." So hopefully, whoever was responsible for the last one is not gone, just maybe in a different position doing better work.
Yeah, except the CTO. So, one thing too, I don't know if they're a publicly traded company or not. I don't think they are, right? Bungie's not at this point. Yeah,
I don't think
because
so.
they, yeah,
Whenever
so
they
they
left
don't have to.
Activision,
Yeah, if they were a publicly traded company, they'd have to explain what happened with them. But I'm guessing you probably left if they've got somebody else in that role. You don't usually go from CTO to something else lateral unless there is something equivalent. Which I mean, he could be. Maybe he wants to do something with international affairs instead, since they're going international. That would be really a time where CTO would be hard at work, is trying to figure out that infrastructure for working across multiple continents. So maybe it's that he is going to do something else with them, or he was like, "Hell no, I don't want to be part of that. That's I like my Saturdays,
yeah.
type thing." Yeah, yeah, we'll see though. We'll see. I am a casual Destiny fan still, watching from afar, wishing the success. I just will never be as hardcore as we used to be with the
Yeah.
3 raids a week and all that kind of stuff.
Those were some fun times just knocking those
Yeah,
raids out. I think it's
yeah,
just cuz their
they're
content is not, and they were pigeonholed by Activision a ton.
yeah,
And I think that we're still seeing some of the after effects of that architecture that was built under that thumb of rule that they had over there.
yeah,
They could say it until they're blue in the face that, oh, they were on their own, but you absolutely saw the greediness come out from the Activision side of things inside of Destiny 2. All the way from like console tiered exclusives and 800 different levels of paying for different content, exotic weapons that were locked from one place to the other, and then the bright engrams became a thing. Then the silver coins, you could pay for armor and things like that, and you could pay for armor boosts, and uh, it's just
sorry,
one of
that
those
was me.
things that hopefully they are currently working towards a better version of Destiny 2. So hopefully they can get back to what made Destiny 1 so great, which is good content. And
Yeah,
they have okay content. They have okay PvP, uh but there's just, you know, if you have to have a season pass to keep people playing, I mean, what are they actually playing then? They're playing the season pass. They're not playing Destiny 2. They're going to play the pass, get to level 100 on it and cash out. Wait till the next one. Move on to a different game.
Yeah, if I speak any further on Destiny, the comments are gonna start getting negative. So I'll just leave it at what I've said so far. I wish them well.
Well, I mean, so what is your negative feedback on Destiny then? I have a ton of it.
Honestly, like you say content, but I just think that the whole premise of it is stale. Like I think the looter shooter genre is stale. Like the only thing that Destiny does and that division do is they put a carrot in front of you. Hey, you want to I'm not hating and I'm being honest, Tom.
Thomas.
um, they put a carrot in front of you, like, oh, if you play a little bit longer, you might get this different colored variant of, that armor, this slightly different design, or your number, this imaginary number that really doesn't mean that much, goes up a little bit further. Like, at a certain point, like, yes, you have that experience of playing with your friends, but is the experience really that different though once you've played a strike for the 13th time or you've done a raid
No.
for the fifth time? Like, it's not that different. You get, like, yes, you guys get better at it, and that's kind of cool, like being a better team, becoming more of a well-oiled unit. Like, all that's cool, but I just think that is kind of stale to me. What I really like now is I like the emergent like gameplay experiences, like what Eve's been doing for dozens of years at this point. Where the players are making up the content. Like, hey,
Right.
here's all the tools of the world. Go out and do what you want, and then you have these awesome stories that you bring back of like this cool thing you saw. And I think there's a way for them to do that with the world. They have to make it more MMO-ish. They need to lean into that a little heavier, innovate that, because you don't want to just be another WoW. But there's something there about like a live, persistent world. Like
Right.
one of the things I've always wanted to do, but you just no company does it for some reason. Is like give people a server where they could really build something up over time. Like how Rust, Arc, like those games, they do have a cool gameplay mechanic there. Like, hey, you get to play on this island with all your friends, and you guys are building resources to build up this community over time. Like, do something like that with Destiny. Like, oh yeah, fucking Earth's been ravished, and the tower, blah blah blah. Here's this dead zone, but we need you guys to build it back up, and here's the reason why you're going out and fighting the darkness. You're collecting this resource, or you're collecting this XYZ that you need to bring back. And over time, that's building your base up. Like Division did that pretty cool, with like the White House, how you're
Right.
bringing stuff back and it builds it up. Like something like that, but to a larger scale. If you remember Metal Gear Solid 5, I know you guys
Hmm.
hate it. I tried to get you guys to play it so
I
bad. It's
I
such a good
don't
game.
hate that game. I just
It's
never seem to
so
find the
good.
time for it.
Is so good. But the online component there, so they had this thing that was built into the game where you're building up your bases. You can go attack other people's bases, but you can also build a nuke and just nuke people. But they had a secret thing built into it, and Kojima, obviously, he's I don't want to say genius because I think sometimes people give him a little too much credit, but
Yeah.
he has very unique ideas. And one of the things that he built into the game was, oh, yes, you can nuke everybody, but there's a secret video that plays if everyone destroys all of their nukes. So like it took forever. I think PlayStation was the last console to do it, but eventually like everyone actually turned their nukes in and shit. I'm like, that's like an emergent gameplay moment. It's not something that was scripted into. I mean, yes, the video was scripted in, but
Right. The
for people to
coding was
figure it
there.
out, yeah, they had to come to this mutual agreement of, oh yeah, all right, we're gonna do it, guys. That's why I like Star Citizen. That's why I like Elite Dangerous. Like people give them a hard time for, oh man, there's no campaign missions or there's none of this, but that's because you don't need them because you're going out there and making your own stuff happen. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I think player autonomy is one of those hidden little gifts that a game can have, whether it's intentional or not. It's oh yeah, no ultra wide support for Metal Gear Solid 5. It's going to be a hard pass for me then. Um
you guys, there's ultra wide fixes. You're PC gamers. You know how to fucking look up these hacks and such. It would take you like 30 minutes. I like honestly, the only reason why I push it so hard is because I've played with you guys both enough to know like how
Mhm.
your mind works. And
Right.
the reason why Metal Gear Solid 5 to me is so good is that what they do is like even the way you select missions. So you'll have this map and it tells you like, oh, here's this conflict that's happening in this part of the world. Here's something that's happening over here. So you pick that, you come in on a helicopter, like you're literally coming into the battlefield on this helicopter. It's real time, it's not some cutscene. You're looking down, you're scoping the area out as your helicopter's going over this mission area that you're supposed to go in. You can drop out right there if you want to. You can say, hey, drop me off 13 miles this way. I'm going to, kind of survey the area. Then I'll come in. You can change it from, if I come during the day, it's going to be a lot more active. there might be less presence because maybe their troops are out doing their kind of stuff. Or I can come at night when everybody's sleeping. It's just that it gives you this world to really play in, and I think that's what you guys would enjoy, especially like knowing you're both kind of fans of the sniper. Like, there's so many
Right.
cool sniping moments in the game. It is really cool. This one, it's the one that's the most different from all the other ones that he did. Four is my least favorite because that was like just a
Oh
long
yeah.
ass movie. I thought three was like a masterpiece, like a Martin Scorsese type thing, just because of the story it told. But this one was like the most, like, man, this is innovative, and no game since then has really given that much freedom for how you can tackle things. I think Shadow of War is pretty close, and maybe some of the Far Cry games, they've got it dumbed down a lot. Like, oh yeah, call in this, but man, the stuff you can do in that game is just crazy. No game after it has done it, really.
Yeah, and I think that autonomy that the players get is ultimately what leads to those like true, gamer moments, like those moments that you will always remember inside of a title,
Yeah.
and they don't they're not always intentional. Like for instance, like cheese moments in Destiny 1 and Destiny 2.
Yeah.
I will not forget uh the the first run that we did of Crota using the land cable
Oh yeah.
switch. That was just the funniest thing I think I've ever witnessed inside of Destiny.
Yeah.
And it's also allows for whenever it's done accidentally, it allows for other types of moments, like whenever Badfish and I used to solo run that first tier of the Crota raid, whenever you just drop into the Hellmouth. And because we were hunters and we had the special boots on and we had our sprint up and we like min maxed the game itself, uh, we were able to just like sprint all the way past that first one, and then we all die and get spawned in the next room.
Yeah.
So it Blizzard is also one that kind of does that a lot. Uh, at least they used to. I've
Yeah.
been out of the World of Warcraft game for quite some time since Cataclysm, and the
Lamp
oh
run.
yeah, the lamp run boys.
Yeah.
uh and so
The good old days.
what a thing that Blizzard used to do was intentionally change up the meta of the game, and you can kind of see that they're losing that because in Overwatch the meta does change, but it's always changing because of a new character. It's never just like, oh hey, by the way, this month we are we are nerfing down Warthog's cannon, and we're going to boost up this other character's main weapon, and
Yeah.
it
They do it on
changes the
purpose.
meta of the whole game. It's done on purpose, and it
Yeah.
reintroduces that autonomy factor, because then you can be a stubborn mule and just like, no, I run diva all day every day, it's diva for life, and just stick to it. Or you can break out of your comfort zone because they're forcing you out of it and find a different character to play as, or things along those lines. Like in early days of WoW, there was this, I don't think it was ever intentional, but there was a time span of when you could play as a rogue. So they would call it a naked rogue, and it's where you had a higher character give one of your lower characters this specific knife that didn't have a level requirement on it. So as long as you had it, you could give it to your low character. And so people were running around as like level 10 humans, just in PvP zones, just ganking everybody. And then it
Yeah.
just became an entire map of just, I think that's what the South Park episode was based around, was
Oh,
that
that's funny.
that level 20 Tink character.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think to kind of wrap up the comments there,
Mhm.
I'm excited for, like I said, kind of just as a casual fan, sitting back and seeing what they come up with. I think obviously these new consoles have opened up a shit ton for developers.
Mm.
Just the low and along, like being able to stream all of that data all together. Batfish just brought up, imagine if Destiny introduced three new classes. One of the big things that the developers have talked about, if you look into the technical details, is that a lot of the reason for why things have to get cycled in and out is because just technical limitations. They
Right.
can't ship a 300 gigabyte game, so that means, hey, we can only hold so much of this in a player's local memory. So these textures and all that stuff that we want to do can't do it right now. So Luckily, the consoles actually were first this time. They're pushing that SSD, proprietary tech forward.
Right.
That's going to catch up on the PC side, and we'll start seeing a lot. We're going to see, I think, visually, we're at a good sweet spot right now. Like, I love 1440p. I love that from a monitor. Obviously, 4K is pretty accessible now with the 38 or the 30 series of GPUs as well. So I think we should be able to stay stagnant at that sweet spot of visual fidelity, and more of that compute power can go into changing up gameplay design. Like, I
Right.
think that's what we're going to start seeing. And I think it's common sense that people want a world that changes over time. Like, we see so many games that do, like I was talking about before with Division and the White House changing, when you drive resources. Like, we've
Yeah.
talked about that. Like, we're all suckers for, like, oh, I've got this area that I can build up over time. So I think it
I
is
made an
only
impact on it. Yeah,
yeah, I think it's
that's what
only
they
a
want.
natural evolution that the next thing to happen is going to be, hey, now the players are doing it. Because like in Elite Dangerous, we do that all the time. Like they have these things called community events, and it'll be, oh, this star system is under attack by whatever. Either everyone goes out there and helps them, and great, the space station is repaired now, and now they sell this product, or we don't do it and it falters and it gets destroyed, and we make those decisions all the time. So we're already seeing it in some games. Let's bring it mainstream. Let's bring it mainstream to
Yep.
70 life.
I'm still rocking my 1080.
Uh,
It's doing me well.
yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with it. Tom, it was half hate, I remember. But
No hating, Thomas.
yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about Destiny though? Or
Nope. I'm wearing my champions of 2020 Destiny shirt right
oh,
now.
nice.
So it even
That's
has
a nice
my
shirt.
gamer tag somewhere on it. I don't know
Oh,
where they put it. Oh yeah.
fish. I
It's like
love
right on
PlanetSide.
this badge. It's got Archie on top of it.
PlanetSide 2 is great, and that's I want Titanfall to go the route of PlanetSide 2. Give me a big ass world where Titans are dropping all over the fucking place. We're having these huge, large scale battles. Tom said with large monsters. I don't remember so much as monsters, so I don't remember that in PlanetSide. But it's been a long ass time since I played, so maybe there were. So Everspace 2, I just want to quickly talk about this. So, I reviewed this or previewed it on my channel. Obviously, this is the video you guys are seeing
Yep.
here. I talked about it on the podcast a couple episodes as well. It just continues to be a great success story about how a early access game should be made. So it came out with very little bugs. Actually, shouldn't say very little. I should say none at all. It had no bugs at all. Um, they moved from their previous gameplay style of being a roguelite to it being more of an or RPG title now. So you go to space stations, those are where your NPCs are. Just it's a really good game. I'm really enjoying it. But one of the things that's been cool is that it's been so successful out of its early access launch that they have already started playing in the additional content for it. So they've announced that they're going to do a summer update and a fall update this year. They're going to add more story content, which
Yep.
originally they had no plans to do any additional story content at all. So that's pretty cool already that they're going to lengthen out the campaign a bit. They're raising the player level cap and also going to be adding some new ship subclasses. So I'm really excited to see this. They're going to do new systems, and we know that somewhere off in the future they're going to have a VR update as well. So I'm just really happy the way that this has turned out. It's one of the few good games that I've played this year that has been kind of a new title. It's kind of been a bit of a drought, even as we put the news
Oh yeah.
together for the podcast each week. There's a lot of news, but there's not a lot of actual game announcement or game release news. Just a lot of news about
About the
the
industry.
yeah, exactly. So I'm glad that we got a little something here up front to tide me over.
Yeah, this game is it's always interested me ever since you started talking about it. It's definitely a title that I want to give some time to. Now, I see that you are playing it with a HOTAS, which for those that don't know, that's the basically the control yoke and flight stick. Uh correct, right? Uh,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
That's what I
Toggle
thought.
and flight stick.
Um does it play well for people that don't have that? Like, can you keyboard and mouse this and still get the same amount of value out of it?
Oh, absolutely.
Or even plug your Xbox controller into it?
Yeah, so I would say either or, honestly. A lot of space games you definitely don't want to play on like a keyboard or even a controller
Right.
just because there's so many different things like, oh, you got to manage this system and all that. But this is one of the few where When I say RPG, they really made it like a RPG. Just think of your character instead of being a toon walking around, you're a ship instead. So
Right.
the controls you can actually do straight up WASD controls, left, right, strafe, up, down, all that good stuff. So they made the controls very simple. I won't say that it was built for a controller, but it plays well with a controller. Anytime I have to review a game like this, I'll usually plug in the other peripherals just to see if there's any type of random glitches or anything. I played a little with controller, maybe like 5 minutes just to make sure it worked, but it was okay. The first game I actually played on controller because I didn't have the hotas back then,
Right.
but now I play with the hotas just because it is pretty simple. But yeah, cool game. It's on Steam. I'm not sure if it's actually on Xbox and PlayStation yet, just because it is an early access title. But the first one did come out to those, so that's something for you guys to look up. Sorry, I can't tell you right off the top of my head here.
Hey, no worries. It
Yeah.
definitely does look like a fun time. I'm always one that is looking for a good, space sim. So if this is worth anything what it looks like, which it looks great, it'll probably get my time. So let's see. So let's I think that's it for the news. Was there anything else you wanted to add in?
No, not
No.
anything else for news, but I'll talk about just some, kind of continuing the same trend, just things on our radar for this month or just recently.
Mhm.
Want to quickly talk about Overcooked, the all-you-can-eat edition. So this is being released on March 23rd. Will be for Steam, Xbox, PlayStation, and the great thing about this update is we are finally getting crossplay. So you and I have we had this little finagle the maybe it was the last podcast episode or the episode before where we really wanted to play Overcooked and you own it on Xbox, I own it on PC. Well, they are now going to turn the switch on for crossplay. So I think that's going to be great. This is really a fun game. I would recommend for anybody. It's one of those great games to get your spouse into. So if you got a girlfriend, wife, whatever, and you're trying to find that first game to kind of get their feet wet. Obviously, The Sims. A lot of people love putting their girlfriends on that first, but
Right.
I like these type of games, the cooperative play, because you guys, it's something you guys can enjoy together. So it's not, hey, turn the PlayStation off and come watch Sex in the City with me. It's hey, let's play Overcooked together. So
Caitlin loves Overcooked.
oh, it's so good.
She had not heard of it until I had downloaded it for Game Pass on our Xbox, and she went and played it, and she loves it. She's playing that and the console edition of Roller Coaster Tycoon. But
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Overcooked is it's a very good co-op game. It involves communication, and yeah, I'll be spending some time with that as well.
Yeah, so I'm excited to play it for people who don't own it. So to come with the first and the second game and all the DLC for $40. Like I said, both games the DLC, and they're gonna have crossplay, so you can jump in anytime for the $40. If you already have the older titles, they're also gonna have crossplay activated. So if you got one or two, you can play. Actually, one didn't have online multiplayer, but two
Right.
does. So yeah, definitely something to keep an eye out. I'm probably going to end up buying it as well, just because I own the first one on console and I own the second one on PC. So I'll probably end up buying this just so I can get the first one again and all the DLC because I don't actually own the DLC for the second one. So it'll probably end up being like a net sum in terms of cost for me there.
Right.
But yeah, check it out, guys. March 23rd.
Let's see. To do.
Yeah, Fish played one and two, and I'm sure him and his wife enjoyed it a lot as well. As a very fun game.
And something else that was brought to us on the last episode was Bowser's Fury by T Diddy, who's now going by the name of Thomas in the chat. Uh, Tom the Greek.
The artist formerly known
The,
as T Did.
that's T Diddy. It is not a standalone title. It is part of the Super Mario 3D World game for the Nintendo Switch. It's it's a game that brings a lot of that nostalgia back from, I wouldn't even really say older Mario titles. It's definitely a 3D situation. Has a very strong Mario Sunshine feel to it. Uh, it's very open. That's the big difference between the base game that you're buying, Super Mario 3D World, and this DLC. They are two separate worlds. Uh, but the Bowser's Fury area takes place on like Cat Island or something like that. And basically, Bowser's just angry. He's gotten a hold of some type of power that just makes him angry. So his anger actually changes the world that you're operating in. So whenever he starts pitching a fit, there's physical differences that happen inside of the game, and it's a unique take, and I would absolutely love to play this. I loved Super Mario 3D World. I would say that it is worth picking it up on the Switch just alone. Super Mario 3D World, Bowser's Fury, just icing on top of the cake. It'll be a great addition to a great game already. Um,
I'm looking just looking over some of our show notes, and you put in here the goal of the game is to evolve into Super Saiyan Cat Mario
yep,
to fight Giga Bowser.
yep. It's that is the goal. Uh, let's see. Watch the trailer real quick. Let's not have that sound on. Uh, you are definitely trying to evolve. You have to get these cat shines, which are basically the stars for this DLC, and then you evolve into Super
Oh,
Saiyan
that's
Cat
cool.
Mario, and that is how you end up defeating Bowser in this world.
Oh, okay.
It's
Looks
very unique.
interesting.
It's very memey. I've seen the memes of Super Saiyan Cat Mario all over the place ever since this was announced. So it's Thomas.
Oh man, this guy's a purr.
For but yeah, so this is the game currently on my radar. So I'll probably I don't know, I've been dying for a good Mario game. Like I liked Mario Odyssey. Um but after a certain amount of time, it just kind of felt like you were doing the same thing a little bit. Um but I mean technically it was a great game. I just like the older like Wii era type ones.
Yeah, I'm never gonna be a Mario guy. But
No,
again,
not
I've
again.
I've out, I've outgrown it. Like I'll play the party games like Smash and Kart and Party, but but the actual like mainline 3D Mario games, ain't happening. Maybe I don't know. I will see how the kid thing goes. If my kid gets into them, maybe she can convince me. But I just, yeah, they're not fun to me, man. They're not. You're
Really?
just jumping. You're just jumping. That's all you're ever doing is just running and jumping.
I don't know. It's bright colors. The coins go ding when you pick them up. It's
Yeah,
very rewarding in a different sense.
reboot it. Give me a dark Mario,
Dark Mario.
a dark Mario
We
world.
have that. It's Wario. Wario and his not brother Waluigi.
Ah, jeez.
All right. So, what games were you playing last week, Steve?
I'm so still playing Echo Arena. I'm probably I've been trying this little kick where I try to get into it at least for about an hour a day or so. Actually, I'll show you really quickly here. So I got the Rift S,
Mm-hmm.
obviously a couple weeks ago. I'll recommend this really quickly to anybody. You guys have a Rift S? Look on Amazon for these little add-on headphones. They're so cool. That's all I'm gonna say. So the Rift S doesn't come with the built-in headphones like the old Oculus does.
Okay.
You have to buy separate headphones, but these are a little add-ons, so they make them perform just like the old ones, where they just clamp onto it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, playing a lot of Echo Arena. Been playing a little bit of a Microsoft Flight Simulator as well. Me and the guys who I've been working with on mod in there, we purchased a model of helicopter with a license that will let us use it for release. So we got that, and we've just been spending the last couple of days modding that and trying to get it flight ready. So it took us about 2 days to get everything texture and model ready. Now we're working on like the electronic systems and everything, but we'll be able to release that pretty soon to all the Microsoft Flight Simulator fans out there, and it will be the first helicopter release for the game if we beat everyone else to the punch. There's been a couple spies trying to find out some stuff,
Oh,
trying to find out how we got it working, but we're not telling.
not
We
not releasing it.
yeah, just because it took and it's not like a selfish thing. We're not obviously we actually invested a couple $100 into
Yeah.
the project just to get the model. and we're not selling it at all. It's more so just that we don't want to somebody else to just come in and say, "Oh, hey, how did you do that?" We tell them how we did it while we're still working on our thing, and then they just put something rinky dink out there, and people flock to that just because it's the first one.
Just because it's the
So
first one. Yeah.
yes, so we want to be first, and we want to be good. But you can see, from the footage, obviously, it's flying, it's got working screens and everything, which is a huge accomplishment. That took a lot of time to get that going. But yeah, that's what we're doing, man. That's what I've been up to last week. How about you?
Last week I played some Grounded, and I know you're not a fan of it,
It's not
but
that I'm not a fan. Let's clear this up before you get going. All right. Let's. It's not that I'm not a fan of Grounded. This year, one of the not a New Year's resolution or anything, but one of the things I said I wanted to do this year was really not just buy things on a whim, because it's a big thing I do. Obviously, I'm a YouTuber, so I can invest back into my channel by buying games and playing them. So that's really how that whole cycle goes. So I
right.
would buy a lot of stuff, and I could, write it off as oh, okay, well, I'm doing it for the channel, so it's whatever, it's $20. But I'm trying to be better about this year. And one of the genres that I absolutely hate are these survival games. These fucking, oh man, you forgot the pee, you're dead. Oh, you forgot the drink water, you're dead. Like I hate that type of stuff. So when I saw that this was a survival game, it really kind of turned me off. But I am more than happy to hear from you. Tell me about it. What is this game really about?
So it is a survival game. You do have to eat.
Like,
Yeah, exactly. You do have to eat and drink water, uh, but it's not a matter of life and death. You keep yourself hydrated because that's how you keep your stamina up, which is what you need when you're trying to find new minerals or you're sprinting and whatnot. Um, and then you need to eat because that's what helps keep your health regenerative. If you are starving, it will take your health away, but it'll never kill you. It'll leave you at like 1 HP. And the game itself, it's weird. So they everything is a threat. Like even ants are a threat to your existence here. Uh, but you can after you play it for a while, you know where those ants are, you know where the spiders are. And if you're running low on food, it doesn't matter. You just go back to wherever your base is, which is not where the spiders and bugs are that are going to kill you. And then you find some grub, you roast the grub up, and boom, you have food. It's definitely not something like you're not moving forward to stay alive. There's a narrative to the game that you were shrunk. It's a very Honey I Shrunk the Kids setup. Almost exactly the same situation, but you are one of the kids and you have to figure out why you were shrunk, how you got shrunk, and how to get back to not being shrunk. And it involves exploring this giant backyard area. And I didn't realize this until I had played it the other day. There's a ton of zones inside of the uh, the backyard. Like there's a lot of different environments, and they do a lot of good work on making sure that you still feel that you're in the same, you're still in the same yard when you transition to a different area, uh, but it still feels like it is unique in itself. So I don't know, and it's very early, but I still feel that it's very good because it is early access. Even on the consoles, it's what is it called on Xbox? Live preview or something like that.
gotcha.
Um, so it I played it. I had this annoying bug where every time it would try to autosave, it would just crash on me. Like 4 out of 5 times when it would autosave, crash. But after pulling all my hair out for it, I eventually realized that it was the autosave that was crashing it. I just turned it off. You can manually save whenever you want. So that's whenever that's when I did it, and it hasn't crashed on me since. So it's a fun game. I'll probably be playing with our buddy Tom in chat. Be playing this with him pretty shortly this week
Okay.
as well.
Um, so I do the Bing Rewards program. Maybe what I'll do is when I earn up enough points to get a month of free live or Game Pass, I'll give it a shot and see. It's just there are a couple things I've seen from the video that make it look interesting. Like I like the whole building up your fort or building up your base type thing. That seems pretty cool. And I do like the idea of you and a team going out and accomplishing something. Like that stuff is kind of cool to me. It's just all the other stuff that goes with survival that I'm not really a big fan of. Like when you talk about stamina, like I'm like, oh, okay, so there's gonna be times where I feel like I'm encumbered like a Fallout game and I'm walking, a second or whatever you want to say, like a millimeter per second, something like that.
Yeah, no,
So
there's no slow walking. It's just not being able to sprint is where it's at. Now, obviously, there's different difficulty levels,
right.
but I mean, if you just play it on normal, and that's what I play it on,
Mm.
uh, those things are like I'm normally starving and thirst deprived the entire time I'm playing. It's not that huge of a encumbrance on you. It's just it's more rewarding to stay, fed and hydrated than it is punishing to not be those. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
I'll
agree.
be down.
Survival's where it's like, oh, I'm only progressing forward so that I can find better food, so that I'm not starving for half the day that I'm trying to get work done. Um, those are very annoying and tedious. I don't feel this game is tedious in that aspect.
Hey, I'm open to it, brother. I'll give it a shot. I
Yeah,
will.
you
I'll
let me
trust you
know, and
guys.
I'll hook you up. Let's see. So that was what we were playing last week. What are you planning on playing this week?
Yes, I put in the show notes just a quick little, could have put this in a news section, but I knew this was going to come up. What we'll be playing this week, and I think I am finally going to jump into Valheim. It's only $20 on the Steam store, but I came across this post here on Reddit where really I think at this point it's just going to be the fear of missing out that's going to get me to play it. So they have hit 500 concurrent players on Steam in just 2 weeks over after the release of the game. This makes it only the fifth game ever to break that milestone.
Oh wow.
Forced, yeah, it's a pretty big thing. So I'll read off a couple quick bullets here. So there've only been four other games other than Valheim to have done this. Those are CS:GO, Dota 2, PUBG, and Cyberpunk. Out of the five games, including Valheim, it is the only one of those that has maintained a overly positive review. So you've got the overly positive or overwhelmingly positive, mediocre, whatever for the Steam reviews. They've maintained that overwhelmingly positive the entire time since release. It's actually 96%. And no other game has ever come close. The only other closest game was CS:GO with like 88%. So a ton of people are liking this. It has picked up steam quicker than any other game.
Oh yeah.
Took CS:GO 3 years to hit that player count. It took Dota 2 2 years to do it. PUBG, it took 3 months to do it, and they kind of put it in perspective for you. Neither Fall Guys or Among Us have ever hit anywhere close to that number. So very interesting. Just the feedback around the game. I've looked at a lot of videos, and it is another one of those survival games where you're going out with a bunch of your friends and doing stuff. Our buddies, Rehan
Mm-hmm.
and Mr. BP are playing.
Oh, are
They've been
they?
out, yeah,
Oh, I'm
and
gonna have to
that was
hook up
another
with
thing.
them.
Yeah, that was another thing that kind of convinced me, man. Like you think of them, and they're like hardcore Call of Duty only guys. Like we play Call of Duty, we play Siege, but even it's been enough to hook them. They're like, no, the gameplay loop of it is very cool. So I'm excited. It's $20. I think I'm finally gonna bite the bullet and give it a shot this week.
My friend on Shane, it just popped up a Steam notification saying that he just started playing it.
Oh, that's funny.
So, yeah, it's I think we talked about it on a previous episode, but it's 10 player, co-op, all in the same realm style of the game, and I think what makes it a little bit different than the normal survival is that there are still it's still a you have your own autonomy inside the world. You can do whatever you want, but there are bosses that you can summon, and that's kind of like the hidden goal of being there is to summon these bosses and knock them out. It's definitely interesting. That's kind of it follows the same formula as Terraria in that aspect, and
Oh,
I
okay.
played Terraria forever. I still
Yeah,
play it
you and
every once in a while.
you and Batfish played that together, didn't you?
Yeah, we had our own private server that I
Yeah,
kept running on a very crappy laptop for a long time.
that's fine. Good stuff. Well, hey, we've covered all the news. We've covered what we played last week, and we covered what we're up and coming this upcoming week. Was there anything that you wanted to speak about real quick that you
Yeah,
think you're going to try
I,
out?
I have to give an update on Haven. Don't do it. Just don't. It's a fun concept of a game, but my wife and I did attempt to play it, and the camera controls are terrible.
Really?
Uh, yes, from a narrative stance, it was pretty fun because the both of you have to agree on certain vocal choices and decisions on what to do. It's not split screen, so you're sharing the real estate, and it does not zoom in or out for you. Uh, but the
You guys like those
camera,
kind of games?
do what?
You like those kind of games? The co-op sharing a space type thing?
Uh, we
I've
like
got one
co-op.
to
We like co-op games in general.
I've got one to recommend for you. I'll tell you after the show. Maybe you can play it between now and the next episode.
All right, cool. Yeah,
It's a
I'll
good
take
one.
it. Well, I think that is it for the episode.
We got some other stuff really quick. So
Oh, okay.
no listener questions this week. We didn't get any of those. As always, I just dropped the link in the chat. You can join us over on our Discord channel. A lot of stuff going on there all the time. We do
We have to play 20
giveaways.
questions. I forgot.
Yeah, yeah, we
I
got to
I
play
have the
20
game,
questions.
but we'll
Yeah,
play it.
it's like yeah, I got you. So yeah, you guys can drop a question in our Discord channel anytime, and we'll answer that on the show live. Also, you can catch the recording of the show if you don't watch this in real time live on Twitch. You can catch that on YouTube the next day over on Archie's channel. This guy Archie on YouTube, he
Hmm.
uploads the full episode over there that very next day. But this week it is Archie's turn to quiz me. We like to play a game here on the podcast called Video Game 20 Questions, where we challenge each other each week to guess a game in under 20 questions. Last week's game was Mass Effect 2, which Archie was able to guess in 14 questions. So let's see what I can do this week. The pressure is on.
Yep. All right. I have this one picked. So go ahead and ask your first question.
Okay. Was this game released before or after 2000?
It's got to be a yes or no question. That was
Is
your
it?
rule.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was this game released before 2000?
No.
Is this game a console exclusive?
No.
Okay, so released after 2000, multi-platform. Da-da-da. Is this game a first-person shooter?
No.
Is this game a third-person shooter?
It could be. Yes.
Does this game have you switch between vehicles and on foot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this a game that we've discussed at some point?
In the podcast?
No, just in general.
Oh yeah,
Over our years.
we have absolutely talked about this game.
Okay, okay.
That's
Do.
6.
Is your character male?
Uh, yes. I had to think if you could change that, but no, you can't change that. So yes.
Is this an RPG?
No.
Okay, I'm trying to hone in on this multi-platform thing. So, was this game released for PC?
Yes.
Was this game released for a Nintendo console?
I'm gonna say no, but let me double check. I'm almost positive it's a no. It's a no. It was not released for a Nintendo console.
Does your character speak in this game?
Yes.
Is
That's
this
11.
game no? Is this game known for having a narrative, like an actual narrative?
Um, I will say the game does have a story mode, but nowadays, and this will couple in as kind of a hint. Nowadays, the narrative is not what gets talked about for this.
Oh man, I am definitely drawing a blank. Is this a licensed game
What do you mean?
in terms of like it is a something tied to an existing IP like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, something like that?
Like, is it part of a series?
No, like so you have original IPs like I came up with this myself, Destiny, something like that, or you
Oh,
have
oh, oh, no. It's an original IP. There was no other media that came out that it was based off of.
gotcha. Does this game have a sequel?
I hope. That I mean that's a pretty strong help.
Where am I at right now?
You are
Question.
at, I believe you're at 14. You're asking very broad questions.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out. I can't even figure out what genre it's in because you said no to first person shooter, no to RPG.
But I said
You're
yes to third person shooter.
you said sometimes.
Well, cuz it's your choice.
What the hell? What the hell?
No, Thomas. It's not Left 4 Dead 3.
Is your choice between being third person and first person? Yes,
No,
that's
no,
the
no.
question.
It's your choice of if it's a third person shooter. I mean, you don't have to use guns. It's still third
Oh,
person.
thank you. Good one. Okay, so a game where you don't have to use guns. Is this game set in space?
No. No. Let me double check. I know for a fact that the narrative is not, but there may have been a DLC that kind of no. Well, I'm just gonna say no.
Was this released by a big publisher like EA, Activision?
They are a big publisher, but not on that same scale. Like you absolutely, everyone knows their name, but it's not on that Activision Ubisoft scale. They don't get their own platform at E3.
Oh, fuck this. I ain't got this one. How many questions?
I think that was, I think that was number 15. It might have been 16, but I only marked up to 15.
Oh man, I don't got. Is this by a Western developer?
Yeah,
Is this was this the first in a is this a standalone game? Only one and done so far?
no,
Is it Dead Island?
it is not.
Is it Dead Island 2?
It is not.
How many
You
questions?
got one. You got one question left, and then you have to guess.
Um, God damn, I really don't know what this is, man.
You're gonna kick yourself.
Uh, d- did it come out this year?
Let me. What
Oh,
do you mean by this year? Like 2020 or 2021?
son of a bitch. Did it come out in 2021?
Well, that's. I'll give you a different question because that does the answer to that question won't help you.
Okay. Um, is this a game that I've played on PC?
Yes,
Okay, last one. Is it Cyberpunk?
it is not.
Hmm. I got stumped. What is it?
It's
What the fuck?
Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, damn. What would have gotten me there? I would have never gotten there, to be honest, because I was so stuck on this whole thing about the genre. I was like, when you start saying it was the third person, I was thinking it was some type of action adventure game. So I started going down that path. Then you kind of gave up that it wasn't Ubisoft, EA, and then at that point, I was thinking like, oh man, it's got to be one of these indie guys like Control or something. That was a good one. Yeah, that one. I don't know what it would have taken to get me there, to be honest.
I think I think maybe if you had asked what, is it rated M? Because you almost had that same answer whenever you asked if it was a Nintendo title. I was like, there's no way. There's no way this
Yeah.
was on a Nintendo uh, console. It's barely lucky to make it on a console in general because of
Yeah.
its maturity rating. Um,
Yeah. That was a good one.
yeah,
Good
that
one.
was the one that I thought for sure you were gonna get, but I was like,
I
man,
should have.
I don't know what good questions would lead you to the road of Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
The
I would have got that one.
the
I can't. I'm trying to think even in my head like what would have got me there,
and
but
you
they're
even
really
streamed this one too, so
yeah.
that was one of the
It's
other
because
reasons.
it's that one too. It's because it's so damn broad. Like there's so much you can do in that game that really like. Oh yeah, do you drive? Yeah, you drive. Because then it's like, oh man, there, man, that was a good one, dude. I like that.
That was a
Good
good one.
job.
Yep, yep, yep.
Well,
Uh,
hey,
yeah.
no, you go ahead.
Oh,
All
no.
you.
I think that is it for today's episode. We've already plugged ourselves, our socials and our channels and all that jazz. Uh, if you came late to the party, it will be up on YouTube tomorrow. Look out for notifications on Twitter from us, and I'll let you know when it comes out there. You have anything else to plug, Steve?
Nothing at all.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for your time, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Adios. I just disappeared off the screen.
Woo!